Okay, so first of all, where we're at right now, we've tested every computer, right? We tested every computer in the school, not counting every single one of the teachers' computers, because that would be too much impact on those. So every student computer's been tested. I did every server personally. Do you guys have any questions on how to test hard drives? Not very hard, right? Not very difficult. In fact, let's go through the self-assessment. And I want to do analysis and just your class. So everybody feels they can identify the difference between a PATA and a SATA hard drive. They can explain the master-slave relationship. That's still kind of hard, but you don't really have to. You have to understand the philosophy, but we're not going to really do it because we're not doing PATA drives, right? I just wanted you to understand the basics. I can install a PATA drive, hard drive correctly, and I would have expected that. But like I said, I'm not going to make you because it's kind of silly. Okay, I just wanted you to understand the difference. I can install a SATA drive, everybody says yes. I can enter BIOS setup to confirm check installation of the hard drive. And I explain drive fragmentation and how to correct for it. So we looked at drive fragmentation the last time we were doing lecture or whatever. Okay, so where we're going forward from here, we've kind of gone over everything, which is how I'd rather have done all of these sections, but timing didn't work out that well. So we're going to go ahead and start the research project for this section, which is obviously on hard drives. So basically the way the hard drive project works, it works just like the other ones. You'll have today and the next class to get the project all done, the next two classes. So again, you're working for a company. This time it's one of the hard drive manufacturers, whether that company is Seagate, Maxtor, Hitachi, IBM, Seagate, whoever. Okay, I think I said Seagate twice. And you're going to present us two different hard drives. One of them is going to be a traditional spinning hard drive, and one of them is going to be a solid state drive. Okay, so you're going to give us background on your company. You're going to recap the specs of the motherboard. In other words, now you're going to pull in what kind of hard drives connect to your motherboard, how many SATA does it have, are they SATA 1s, are they SATA 2s, are they SATA 3s, what kind of RAID do they do, what kind of connections can you set up. And then you're going to talk about the hard drives that you're here to sell us, giving us the size, which would be in gigabytes or terabytes, the speed, which is the rotational speed I'm talking about for the traditional hard drive. And then we'll start talking about how fast it can access that information. Latency we talked about only corresponds to a spinning hard drive. There is no latency with a solid state because there's no spinning, so it doesn't have to wait for the data to get to the seeker head. What read-write speed it has, what kind of transfer rate it has. In the case of a traditional spinning drive, what kind of buffer it has. If it has a mean time before failure, or an MTBF, which I talked about last time and showed you one that had an MTBF, or some of them have an annualized failure rate, should be able to tell us what those are and explain what those two differences between those two terms are. There are some other terms for solid state that aren't on here that I need to add to this one in particular. That I'm just going to tell you right now. Okay, so you need to look up how many read and writes it's warranted for if you can find it on a solid state drive. Okay, and it's going to be in hundreds of thousands or possibly even in millions, which is one of the limitations of a solid state. Okay, if it only has so many writes, the last thing you want to do is ever defrag it because it's just unneeded writes to move data around that don't make things faster. Okay, and then obviously a cost with the link and at least one picture of the drive. You can have more than one, obviously. No used, refurbished, or white label drives. I don't know if I talked to you about this last time. You're going to see some that look like they're new that are called white label. White label means there's a company that has taken in, I don't have one sitting around here, I don't think, has taken in a Seagate drive, remanufactured it, and put their own label on top of it. It is used by all definitions. Okay, so if it says white label, it's used and it's refurbished. And I would never buy a white label drive for something that's really, really important. We do have a bunch of white label drives that we bought at $8 a drive, I think, or $9 a drive to put in student systems when students had PCs, when we had PCs in labs before we got solid states. And that was because we just could really cheap, and it gave us SATA drives instead of IDE drives, so they were twice as fast as the IDEs. But I wouldn't put them in a machine that I had any need to keep something permanently on. I didn't put white labels in any staff machines, at least not on purpose. Occasionally I'd find one that was put in one that I didn't mean to do, or maybe a student put in, I don't know. So none of those. And then obviously a recap question slide and a works cited slide at the end, just like before. Okay. So the first thing you're going to do, but don't do it yet, because I have to look at my choices, is you go and choose your presentation topic, and that's down here where you're choosing your drives, and this doesn't even list everything I wanted to say. So I need to go and edit this list real fast before you guys make those choices. So there we go, it's recording. So on the choices, first of all, you're going to have two choices, just like you did on the other ones. One's for home or business or gamer, and one's for the other one, okay? If one of your choices home, it should be the least expensive you can find to meet that's within the specs that I'm giving you. However, the business and gamer one should be the best ones that you can find to meet the specs. And we're assuming that you're trying to find something less expensive for your home than if you had unlimited funds and you were doing it for business or if you're gamer. So if you look at this, so this is saying that the first choice is always solid state, the second choice is spinning on these two. So this choice is 120 gig solid state for your home, so the least expensive one you can find for 120 gig, regardless of the speed, okay? And one that's 1 to 2 terabytes, and it's a SATA drive. I just said SATA because they're all SATA. Anyways, 1 to 2 terabytes for business. So this one's a spinny drive, okay, the second one. So one that fits in that spec, that's the best one you can find. Has the best access time, has the best transfer rates, has the best buffer, the best one you can find, what's the word I'm looking for? Irrelevant? Irrelevant? No, that's not, anyway. Irrespective of cost. There we go.
Irregardless?
Irregardless, there we go, that's the word I was looking for. Okay, it's early. My coffee hasn't sucked in. So this one's 120 gigabyte again, but it's for business. In other words, now I don't care about cost. I care about getting the best 120 gigabyte solid state drive. And the really reason we have the same one there, kind of, is so that if two of you guys do the same presentation, you can see what cost gets you. How much better is it when it comes to solid state drive? And then that one says 0.5 to 1 terabyte SATA for home. That's a 500 gig to 1 terabyte, and you get the idea. That's 250 SSD for gamer, which would be the smallest you'd ever want as a gamer on a solid state drive, because you're not going to fit all your games on it, but you fit the ones that are important. And then up here, we're all the way up to 1 terabyte SSD for gamer. That's saying he's going to put everything on the solid state drive. So we can see a variety of drives in your presentations and a variety of costs. Same thing here. Now we're going to the really looking at the smallest new drive you're going to find for home. You're not going to find anything less than 300. And I don't even know if you'll find a 300 gig SATA drive that's new anymore. That's not like, okay, it was new 5 years ago. It's been sitting on the shelf. And then we see 2 to 3 terabytes for the gamer, and then all the way up to 4 to 6 terabytes for business. So each of you guys can choose one of those, and then today I'm not going to bother you the rest of the day. You can start doing your research, but if you have any questions, obviously the advantage of this week is that I'm here for all the questions. Anybody have any questions right now before I stop recording? Yeah.
Should we just converse around each other and see what companies are doing?
No. Yeah, kind of, but no. I'm not really saying that. I'm not defining the companies.
Okay.
In fact, you know what? Since we're only doing 2 drives, I'm going to say you don't even have to do the same company for both drives. Can I do that? Because this one, it's going to be hard to find the least expensive here, and then the same one for here. In fact, I am going to say you're going to have to do a separate intro for each one, and you don't work for that company. I'm changing it all up just based on that, what you just said. And here's why. Because there's a bunch of companies that do SSDs that don't do spinny drives. Okay, so if I say you got to use the same drive, then you're going to be stuck with Samsung and Toshiba. You're not going to be able to use a Kingston solid state. You're not. There's a bunch of solid states you couldn't do. So instead, I'm going to say the company that you work for is a distribution company that represents both of them, and then just give us a little intro on each one of the makers. For it's not that much information anyway. So, because if I do that, if I make you stick with a specific company, I'm going to be cutting out a whole bunch of SSDs that don't. There are memory companies that make solid state drives that don't make spinning hard drives at all. So I'm going to change that on the other thing. So you don't work for the hard drive company anymore. Now you work for a distribution company that sells both these kind of hard drives. Because yeah, that's what itself. That answers your questions with totally spin on it, but that's okay. It didn't hurt anything. It's not like you've researched anything yet. Good question. Anything else? Okay. Well.